Let me tell you about two kids sitting in the same classroom. Same school, same teacher, same year. The first kid is a girl. She sits quietly. She follows instructions. She completes her assignments on time. She raises her hand and waits to be called on. By third grade, her teacher pulls her parents aside and says those words every parent dreams of hearing. Your daughter is gifted. The second kid is a boy. He can't sit still. He asks too many questions. He finishes his work fast and then gets bored and starts bothering other kids. He looks out the window. He taps his pencil. By third grade, his teacher pulls his parents aside too. But the words are very different. We think your son might have ADHD. Same classroom, same year, completely different outcomes. And I want you to think about that for a second. Because what just happened in that classroom was not science. It was not medicine. It was not even education. It was a system doing what it was designed to do. Reward the behaviors it finds convenient. Punish the behaviors it finds difficult. And for the last 50 years, that system has been quietly, consistently, and devastatingly failing boys. Today we are going to talk about why. Let's start with some numbers that should make every parent uncomfortable. In the United States right now, girls outperform boys at every level of education. Girls get better grades in elementary school, middle school, high school, and college. Girls are more likely to graduate high school. Girls are more likely to enroll in college. Girls are more likely to graduate college. In 1970, men made up nearly 60% of college students. Today, women make up nearly 60%. That is a complete reversal in 50 years. And the education establishment's response to this has been mostly silence. Because here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody in education wants to say out loud. The modern school system was not designed for the way boys develop. It was not designed for the way boys learn. And it was not designed for the energy, the curiosity, the physicality, and the impulsiveness that is completely normal in developing boys. The school system was designed for compliance. And on average, girls are socialized to be more compliant from a much earlier age. That is not a criticism of girls. Girls are not doing anything wrong. They are thriving in a system that rewards their natural tendencies. The problem is that the system interprets boys' natural tendencies as problems to be solved. Hey, before we go further, if you are a parent of a boy and something is clicking for you right now, hit that like button and subscribe to System Broken, because this is exactly the kind of conversation we have every single week. Let's keep going. Now I want to talk about something called the reading gap, because it is one of the most important and most ignored crises in education today. By fourth grade, boys are already significantly behind girls in reading and writing. Not because boys are less intelligent, not because boys are less capable, but because the way reading is taught in most schools is fundamentally misaligned with how boys' brains develop. Boys' brains, on average, develop language skills later than girls' brains. This is basic neuroscience. It is well documented. It is not controversial. But instead of adjusting the system to account for this normal developmental difference, the system labels boys who fall behind as struggling, as problem students, as potential learning disabilities. And once that label gets attached to a boy, it follows him. Studies from Johns Hopkins University found that boys who are labeled as behavior problems in early elementary school are significantly more likely to drop out of high school, significantly more likely to enter the criminal justice system, and significantly less likely to pursue higher education, all from a label, attached at age 7 or 8, because he couldn't sit still. Now here is where it gets even more complicated, because the gifted label and the ADHD label are often not measuring fundamentally different things. They are often measuring the same underlying trait through a gendered lens. The girl who is intense, creative, highly energetic, and resistant to boring tasks is labeled gifted. A boy with those exact same traits is labeled a problem. I am not making this up. Researchers at Yale University studied this exact phenomenon. They found that teachers, when presented with identical student behavior, were significantly more likely to refer boys for ADHD evaluation and significantly more likely to refer girls for gifted programs. Same behavior, different child, different outcome. That is not medicine. That is bias baked into a broken system. So what is actually happening here? And more importantly, what can you do about it? First, understand that your son's energy is not a disorder. The inability to sit still for 6 hours a day is not pathological in a developing child. It is human. What is pathological is a system that expects it. Second, if your son has been labeled or is being considered for a label, get a second opinion. And a third, from a professional who is not connected to the school system. Because the school has a vested interest in compliance, a doctor does not. Third, find what your son is obsessed with and feed it. Boys who struggle in traditional school settings very often have areas of intense, laser-focused interest. That is not a symptom. That is a superpower. Build around it. Fourth, talk to your son about what is happening, not in a way that makes him feel broken, but in a way that makes him understand the system. Tell him the system was not built for him, and that the people who changed the world were very often the ones the system tried hardest to contain. Einstein was considered a slow learner. Edison was told he was too stupid to learn anything. Richard Branson struggled with dyslexia and was written off by his teachers. The system was wrong about all of them. So here's my question for you. Drop it in the comments right now. Do you have a son who has been labeled by the school system? Or were you that boy? Tell me your story. I read every single comment, every one. And if this video made you see the education system differently today, subscribe to System Broken. Because every single week we pull back the curtain on the things the system was never designed to tell you. About your kids, about success, about what it actually means to be smart in a world that only recognizes one very narrow kind of intelligence. I will see you in the next one.